The Beast in the Jungle by Henry James. The Omen of Weatherend. John Marcher stepped through the grand entrance of Weatherend, the autumn leaves crunching under his feet. The old estate, a relic from the Tudor period, stood as a testament to a family's legacy, now whispered through its towering walls and windows that stretched towards the heaven. He was greeted by the familiar face of May Bartram, her eyes reflecting a knowledge deeper than he could fathom, her elegant gown rustling softly as she moved. "John, you look as if you've seen a ghost," May said, her voice a gentle tease, a slight smile playing on her lips. "It's this place, May. It feels like it's waiting to tell me something," John replied, his sharp eyes scanning the room with its ancient tapestries and portraits of ancestors long gone, his tailored coat hugging his tall, lean frame. May led him to a cozy corner by the fireplace where the light from the dying embers cast a warm glow. "You're still worried about the thing, aren't you?" she asked, her tone serious now, her hand reaching out to touch his arm in a comforting gesture. John nodded, the weight of his premonition heavy on his shoulders. "It's like a shadow, May. A shadow that's always lurking, even on the brightest days," he confessed, his voice tinged with a weariness that spoke of sleepless nights. May took his hand, her touch reassuring. "I'm here with you, John. Whatever this thing is, this fear of an unknown disaster that haunts you, will face it together," she declared, her determination clear in her steady gaze. They sat in silence for a moment, the crackling of the fire the only sound, the scent of burning wood filling the air. Then John spoke up. "Do you ever think it's strange, May? That I'm the only one who feels this impending sense of doom?" "Not at all," May replied softly, her hand squeezing his. "Some are just more attuned to the whispers of fate," she added, her voice a soothing balm to his troubled soul. Their conversation drifted to lighter topics, memories of their past encounters, and the changes time had brought. But as the night grew deeper, so did the sense of foreboding that enveloped John Marcher, a man haunted by the omen of Weatherend, the chill of the night air seeping into the room, as if echoing his inner turmoil. The Confidante's Secret. The grand clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the halls of the ancient house, as if marking the arrival of an unseen presence. John Marcher stood by the window, the moon casting a ghostly pallor over his face, reflecting the turmoil within. May Bartram watched him from the doorway, her eyes reflecting a history of silent companionship and shared secrets. As the last chime faded, a figure emerged from the shadows of the garden, a silhouette that seemed both foreign and eerily familiar. The newcomer, a man of indistinct age and bearing an air of quiet authority, approached the house with a purposeful stride. John felt a shiver run down his spine, an instinctive recognition of the harbinger of his long-anticipated fate. May stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you know him, John?" He did not, yet the sight of the man stirred memories of a childhood tale, a legend of a wanderer cursed to walk the earth, bearing omens of destiny to those awaiting their doom. John's heart raced as he watched the stranger, knowing that his life's enigma was about to unfold. May, sensing the shift in the air, recalled her own past, a time when she too had faced the specter of an unknown dread. Her story, untold until now, held echoes of John's fears, a testament to the invisible threads that bound their lives together. The stranger's knock on the door resonated like a verdict. John and May exchanged a glance, a silent agreement that the time had come to face the thing that haunted them. With a steadying breath, John moved to open the door, stepping into a chapter of his life that had been written long before he drew his first breath. The Gothic tale of fate's inexorable pull continued to weave its dark narrative, the suspense deepening with each heartbeat. The Bonds of Weatherend. The grand old house of Weatherend held many secrets, and John Marcher carried one in his heart. It was a crisp autumn day when he walked alongside May Bartram in the vast gardens of the estate. "I believe life is full of surprises," May said when John shared his feelings of anticipation for an undefined future event. Their walk continued with lighter conversation, and back at the house, the warmth of the fire welcomed them. In the quiet of the library, May was reading by the window. John, feeling a mix of frustration and relief, expressed his wish to see himself with the same strength May saw in him. "You can," she assured him. "Just look in the mirror and see the man who's brave enough to live with the unknown." Their days at Weatherend were filled with shared glances and unspoken understandings, and though John's fear of his fate was ever present, May's company brought him a sense of peace. The bonds of Weatherend, woven with threads of mystery and companionship, grew stronger each day. The shadow of premonition. As the autumn leaves began to fall, marking the passage of another year at Weatherend, John Marcher found himself at the threshold of the grand house, his heart heavy with an unspoken confession. The air was thick with the scent of impending rain, and the once vibrant garden seemed to mirror his inner turmoil, its colors muted and life ebbing away. Inside, May Bartram awaited him with a serene composure that belied the gravity of the secret she harbored. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, a decade of shared vigilance weighed upon them. It was in this moment that John, driven by a force he could neither name nor understand, revealed the truth of his visits to the Garden of Death, a place where he sought solace in the company of stone angels and whispered promises to the wind. May listened, her expression unchanging, yet her eyes reflected a storm of emotions. She knew of John's affliction, the spectral beast that stalked his dreams, a harbinger of a fate he believed was his alone to bear. But as the walls of the house echoed with the ticking of the ancient clock, a revelation dawned upon them both. The beast was not just John's to confront, but theirs, a shared destiny intertwined with the very fabric of their beings. The revelation brought them closer, their past a tapestry of unspoken words and missed opportunities. It was May who broke the silence, her voice a whisper that carried the weight of their history. She spoke of a time long past, of a promise made under the starlit sky of their youth, a promise to face the unknown together. As the storm outside began to rage, the house itself seemed to respond to the shift in their relationship. A gust of wind tore through the open windows, sending papers flying like specters in the night. It was as if the house, a silent witness to their journey, was urging them to confront the very thing that haunted them. And so, with a newfound resolve, John and May stood side by side, their hands clasped tightly. The thing that haunted John, a mere shadow in the corner of his eye, now took form in the stories they shared. The laughter and tears that filled the once solemn rooms. It was no longer a beast lurking in the jungle, but a part of their story. A chapter yet to be written in the book of their lives. Together, they stepped into the storm, ready to face whatever lay ahead, their bond unbreakable, their spirits intertwined with the legacy of Weatherend. The unseen affection. In the grand, shadow-filled halls of Weatherend, a sudden chill swept through the room, causing May Bartram to draw her shawl tighter as she observed John Marcher. He stood still for once, his gaze fixed on an old, dust-covered painting that they had never noticed before. It depicted a dense jungle with a hidden creature lurking within, its eyes just visible in the underbrush. "John," May called out gently, "what has captured your attention?" He pointed towards the painting. "Do you see it, May? The eyes in the jungle. It's as if they're watching us." May approached, peering at the canvas. "It's just a painting, John, yet it feels alive, doesn't it?" John nodded, his usual restlessness replaced by a quiet intensity. "It's a sign, May. The beast, it's always been a metaphor, hasn't it? Not a fate to meet, but a fear to confront." May remained silent, her thoughts a whirlwind. She knew John was on the cusp of a revelation, one that could shatter the very foundations of his lifelong wait. As they stood together, the room seemed to darken, the painting's eyes glowing ever so slightly. John's hand found May's, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. "It's not about waiting for the event, May," John whispered, "but about understanding what holds us back. The real beast isn't in the jungle or in this painting. It's the fear within us." May squeezed his hand, her presence a testament to their enduring bond. The mystery of the beast remained, but for the first time, John Marcher felt a flicker of courage, ready to face whatever lay ahead, with May by his side. The turning point. John Marcher stood alone under the gray sky. At the cemetery, he walked the familiar path to May Bartram's grave, reflecting on their time at Weatheren. The silence was broken by a soft sobbing nearby. John turned to see a stranger kneeling before a fresh grave. Without speaking, he acknowledged the stranger's grief with a nod. John then left the cemetery, knowing he would return to the place that connected him to May, if only in spirit. His story continued, marked by the realization of what might have been. The mirror of sorrow. In the quietude of the cemetery, John Marcher stood before May Bartram's grave, the silence around him so profound he could almost hear the grass growing over the forgotten stories buried beneath. It was here, in this solemn garden, that he felt the weight of his existence pressing down upon him, a reminder of the beast of burden he carried within. As he traced the contours of May's name etched in stone, a shadow fell across the grave, a figure cloaked in the ambiguity of twilight. The stranger, a woman with eyes that seemed to reflect the depth of John's own sorrows, introduced herself as Eliza Gray. She spoke of a shared lineage with May, a cousin long estranged by the tides of time and circumstance. Eliza's arrival brought a new dimension to John's mourning. She spoke of May with a fondness that transcended death, painting her not as a memory, but as a living force that continued to shape the lives she had touched. Through Eliza, John learned of letters May had written, never sent, filled with words that breathed life into the void left by her absence. The letters spoke of the beast, not as a fearsome entity, but as a guardian of the threshold between what was and what could be. They urged John to confront the beast, to look into its eyes and see not fear, but the reflection of his own strength. It was a call to action, a plea for John to embrace the uncertainty of life as the ultimate act of living. Compelled by May's words, John found himself at the edge of the cemetery, where the wildness of an untamed forest began. There, he faced the metaphorical beast, a representation of his fears and regrets. In the heart of the woods, he battled the darkness, each step forward a testament to his resolve to live not in the shadows of the past, but in the light of possibility. The chapter closed with John returning to the cemetery, not as a pilgrim of sorrow, but as a man reborn. The encounter with Eliza and the confrontation with his beast had rekindled a fire within him. He left behind a single white rose on May's grave, a symbol of his gratitude and a promise to carry her legacy forward, not as a burden, but as a beacon guiding him through the uncharted waters of his own life's journey. The Epiphany. John Marcher stood among the weathered gravestones, his gaze lingering where May Bartram lay. A man's sobbing broke the silence, and John's attention shifted to a stranger kneeling before a grave. "Why do you weep so?" John inquired softly. The stranger looked up, his eyes red. "Because I loved," he replied. John contemplated the stranger's brief response. He had waited for something grand to define him, not realizing that the true event was May herself. "To love is to live," the stranger said, standing and leaving John with his thoughts. John remained, anchored by his epiphany. He whispered to the wind, "I see it now, May. I see what you tried to show me." The cemetery, once a place of solace, now resonated with the echoes of missed opportunities. John walked away, his heart finally recognizing the beauty it had overlooked.